What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm gonna rank all main Arrowverse villain last episode appearances, and I know that's a mouthful, but I want you to know that this is outdated, and by the time of recording this bit, I have seen Justice League Unlimited Season 1 and 2. Probably when I edit this, I'll probably see 3. So, let's get into the video. This was the last episode appearance of Catwoman. She was the main villain for Batman Season 2. This was her last episode appearance, and I don't think it's that good. They should have stuck with the last one. The last Catwoman appearance, like, darn that Catwoman or something like that, is the highest rated episode of Batman on IMDb, and it's a really good episode. They should have just stopped with that. This episode was the last appearance. It was the last episode that Non appeared. And Non was the first. He was the main villain of Supergirl Season 1. And this episode just isn't that good. It's not that good, but it's a Supergirl finale. Not a lot of them aren't good. There are 2 that are good out of the 5 seasons. This was the last episode that Penguin appeared. And Penguin was the main villain for Batman Season 1. And, this episode, I don't like it. It's just a stupid Penguin episode where, like, oh no, he prints money out of green ink and steals it. Oh no. And I'm not a big fan of Batgirl, the Batgirl inclusion.
Put all my chips on the girl of steel. If I defeat you, your invasion ends.
This was the last episode that Rhea appeared, and for good reason, she died. It was also the finale for Supergirl Season 2, and Rhea was the main villain for Supergirl Season 2, played by Terry Hatcher. They didn't really have a good plan for the season. They just cast a legacy actor to play this villain, and this episode isn't really that good. It's not really that good.
Ending the world.
Protecting people is what I do. Let's do this.
You don't have to let your friends die.
I don't plan to. I'm just gonna kill Supergirl myself. It'll be fun. Supergirl season finale.
This was the last episode that Gemma appeared, and she was the main villain of Supergirl Season 5, and this episode sucked. I know it was an amalgamation of episode 19, episode 20 that got shut down of filming because, everything got shut down. But now it's opening back up, but they got shut down. So this was the last episode of Gemma, and it sucked.
I see you.
I wasn't there. I am going to fix all that today. I still have his organs.
This thing's cost me too many good men. Kill it.
They're coming back.
He knows who those men are.
He's inside my head.
You could do so much for all of humanity. Why would I help you?
This was the last episode appearance, or it was the last time he appeared. Every Sunderland, who was the main villain of Swamp Thing Season 1. And I don't think Loose Ends is that good. For one, the season got cut short. I don't like how they did the season. And two, it has loose ends, just like the episode.
Guess who's back in a flash?
This was the last episode that the Trickster appeared, and the Trickster was the main villain for The Flash Season 1. And this episode is all around not good. It's the writer's fault. Mark Hamill is amazing in this role. Just Mark Hamill is amazing. He's using elements of Joker before Batman the Animated Series premiered, but it's okay. This was the first and last episode that Ben Wade appeared, and he, for me, was the main villain of the Green Hornet Season 1. And The Hornet and the Firefly is one of the best episodes of the season. After this episode, the episodes just keep getting better. And I like Ben Wade as a villain. He's very powerful. He's like an army general, so...
I was wrong.
What are you doing? I promised you war. This is what it looks like.
Right as I'm recording this is the last episode appearance of Alice. I know Rachel Scarston has been posting that she's going to be back in Season 2, but Alice was the main villain for Batwoman Season 1. So when Batwoman Season 2 ends and I update this list, it will be one of those episodes for her last episode appearance. But Oh Mouse was good, but also wasn't that good. This was the last episode that the Joker from Batman 66 appeared. He was the main villain of Batman Season 3, and this episode was kind of stupid. The Joker had a flying saucer, for real, and he sent people down in face paint and prosthetics, claiming to be Martians. 60s were weird, man. I wonder what these people were on.
Smallville, a force of nature, has taken control. Now, to save one precious life, he will risk family,
Mom! Dad!
friendship,
You know what? I don't know what to believe anymore.
and himself.
He's going to expose your secret.
Smallville, the season premiere.
This episode was the last appearance of Roger Nixon, or the Season 1 villain of Smallville. I'm pretty sure he died at the end. All the Smallville season premieres, apart from like one, take place the day after, or literally the moment after the cliffhanger. And I'm sorry. Yeah, I was on low battery when I recorded this, so, and still am.
Dangerous. Apple doesn't fall that far. I got you a little gift. time to collect the debt he owes you, Father. Do it. Slave! Arrow, only next Thursday at 9.
This was the last appearance of Slade Wilson, or Deathstroke. Fade Out, I'm not going to count, because that was archive footage, or I will count. You just tell me what not and what not to count. But this was also the first appearance of Ricardo Diaz, which is a nice coincidence.
Great movie event. Huntress comes face to face with her mother's killer. Before the night's over, hidden identities will be revealed. Friendships will be betrayed.
Will you do anything I ask?
And vengeance will turn Huntress against an empire. The all-new 2-hour season finale.
I gotta kill you now.
This was the series finale of Birds of Prey, the 13th episode. That's pretty sad. But, this was the last episode that Harley Quinn appeared, and she was the first episode. She was the main villain of the first season of Birds of Prey, and weirdly cast as the girl from Ferris Bueller. So this episode's okay. It's not like the worst.
Special tribute. So if there is any call for their super services tonight, forget it.
This episode was the last episode appearance of Mordrew, the season 1 villain of Legends of the Superheroes, which is only a 2-episode special, but I'm gonna count it as a season. This episode was just the villains roasting, like, the superheroes, like Adam was Batman and a bunch of other people, Burt Ward, Robin. The last episode appearance of Mordrew.
My dear fellow, I contacted all my usual sources, but I'm afraid it's just not a seller's market.
What's that supposed to mean?
This was the last episode appearance of Killer Croc in the DCAU, and Killer Croc was the main villain for Batman the Animated Series season. No, not Batman. You can count it as Batman the Animated Series. Yeah, he was the main villain of Batman the Animated Series season 2. I was thinking of the new Batman Adventures, but that's Scarecrow. But this was a good episode. Two-Face as in Judgment Day.
Virgil! You shrimp? You didn't take the garbage out last night.
Is that what smells? I figured you were trying a new recipe.
For the last time, Virgil, you have to help with the chores.
I do help with the chore.
No, you say you'll help, then you disappear. Poof.
Well, I wouldn't say food. More like
This was the last episode appearance of Ferret, who was the main villain for Static Shock Season 2. Ebon, who was the main villain of Static Shock Season 3. And also Hot Streak, who was the main villain of Season 4. And this episode was a letdown. It's supposed to be the series finale, which it has series finale elements, but it doesn't. It's a letdown. It's just an okay episode. It's not like the best episode, even though Season 4 is really good. This was the last episode appearance that Spellbinder, and Spellbinder was the main villain of Batman Beyond Season 2, and this episode was really good. The GCPD was on a manhunt for Batman. Sounds familiar. But Spellbinder is a really good villain, and I like how they use like virtual reality as a weapon. This was the Season 1 finale, and it was the last episode that Blight appeared in. You could argue that he's in the opening credits of every episode, but we're not going to count those. But Blight, this was the last episode, and Blight was the main villain for Batman Beyond Season 1, Derek Powers, and he was a pretty interesting villain. Batman Beyond, Terry McGinnis's main villain, or like he's the Joker to Terry McGinnis's Batman.
When we let evil win, when the horrific becomes our new reality.
I keep having these dreams about being killed by Deathstroke, and they're not going away. We need to do something about that.
Deathstroke! Get down!
I told you what would happen if the Titans ever reunited.
Tik?
Things are getting super ugly out here.
We started this. It's all us now.
This was the last episode that Deathstroke appeared in, and he was the main villain for Titans Season 2, and I'm pretty sure he's not coming back, because he died. Even though this version of Deathstroke was good, but not better than Manu Bennett. And, this episode just felt like there was an episode missing in between. Deathstroke died within the first 14 minutes.
I am Mr. Mixes Peddling. I am offering you a do-over.
We have to go back to the very beginning.
Don't mess it up. Supergirl. New episode next Sunday at 9.
This was the last appearance of Rain, and she was the main villain of Supergirl Season 3. And this episode was the 100th episode, so Mixes Peddling was taking Supergirl back into previous episodes and seeing what she could change. And she changes stuff, and it turns out worse than it is in the present day. So the present day is the best option.
It's going nuts out there.
Nothing's working, not even cell phones.
It's happening, isn't it?
Gotta be another way.
Get my consciousness inside the boat.
Barry?
What do you see? What's around you?
You're in my mind now. There's no escapes.
Barry! He's coming for us.
Run, Mr. Allen. Run. The Flash.
This was the last episode that Clifford DeVoe, or The Thinker, appeared in. And it was... First of all, we are The Flash. Really? Season 4 is good, though. It has some good parts. But this episode is not one of them. I do not care if Cecile dies. And they forgot about the baby after this episode. So... This was the last episode that Starro appeared in, and he was the main villain for Batman the Brave and the Bold Season 2. Yes, Starro was a main villain for Batman. A Batman TV show, yes. Anyway, this episode was not as good as the first part, even though Buana Beast sacrificed himself in this part to save the rest of the world, which was kind of emotional.
Everyone has a part to play.
Who wants to meet Batman?
Jeez. Bruce? Nice glasses. Thanks. Choices.
This episode was the last appearance of Smallville Clark Kent, and he was his own main villain in Season 2 due to the Red Kryptonite subplot in Season 2, where he got taken over by Red Kryptonite by the end of that season and left Smallville and had a bad relationship with everybody after that episode that had to be resolved in Season 3.
It matters what you do. We're training for whatever's next.
Titans. Let's go.
We put them in crisis. See how they operate. Here I am. I'm pretty
sure I'm the one you're mad at anyway.
This was the last appearance of Trigon, who was the main villain for Titans Season 1, and this episode was pretty good, even though it was a finale and a season premiere. Technically, it was two mashed up together. I would like to see the original finale, though, with the Doom Patrol involved, if you've seen the leaks. But this episode was pretty good, and Trigon looks weird.
What do you mean you're shutting me down? You heard me, Karen. I'm transferring you to another division here at Alpha Industries.
I don't understand, Edwin. I have done everything you've asked. I have built the largest data gathering network known to mankind, all dedicated to one purpose: finding Static's secret identity.
Listen, my son is alive, and
This episode was the last appearance of Edwin Alva, who was the main villain of Static Shock Season 1. And this episode was the episode that, Virgil's dad, I can't remember his name right now, but, he found out he was Static, and Virgil's dad got kidnapped. And this was the penultimate episode to the series finale. And they did this episode pretty well, even though this footage is not from that episode.
Do it!
It's chaos that you want. Chaos you shall have. Let's go save the world.
DC's Legends of Tomorrow season finale.
This episode was the last appearance of Lechices, who was one of Charlie's sisters and the main villain of Legends of Tomorrow Season 5. And this episode was pretty good. I really like this episode more than most people do. I love Season 5 more than most people do. Season 5 is in the top 15 Arrowverse seasons for me. And sorry, I just got a notification on my phone. So that's why the buzzing sound happened.
Are here. There are two sets of legends.
We're not imposters.
Fire!
Isn't that adorable?
DC's Legends of Tomorrow season.
This episode was the last appearance of Matt Letcher's version of Reverse Flash, which, I mean, come on. They got Matt Letcher to be Reverse Flash for a whole season, the main villain of Legends of Tomorrow Season 2, but they can't get him back for an appearance on the Flash TV show, where he could be a main villain from the future. Maybe Season 10, though. But this was the last episode appearance right now of Matt Letcher's Reverse Flash.
To kill my entire family.
You have no idea who you're messing with. You're all gonna be wishing for the mercy of a quick death.
This episode was the last appearance of Ricardo Diaz, or the Dragon, because he got killed. But this episode was pretty good. It was the first time we saw what we thought was the head of whatever Emiko's group was. But Ricardo Diaz, and went on like a job with Argus or something. This episode was the last appearance of the Riddler for Batman the Brave and the Bold, and he was the main villain for Scooby-Doo and Batman the Brave and the Bold movie, which is not as good as I thought it would be. It's very sad, but this was the last episode appearance of the Riddler, and it dealt with the Justice Society of America visiting the Justice League's Watchtower.
Pirates. But you know what today is?
Today is the day.
We earned the name Legends.
DC's Legends.
This episode was the last appearance of Mullis because he died. But this episode was really good. Rip died, and I'm surprised that wasn't a faked death, because we're going into season 6 now, and Rip hasn't shown back up, which is surprising that they kept him dead this long. And it seems like he's still dead on Earth Prime. But the Bebo fight, I still remember when this aired. was smiling from ear to ear.
Humans die. This is all my mistake, and I'm not gonna make another one. You took my family away from me. Now watch me take yours.
Flash.
This episode was the last appearance of Grace Gibbons, aka Cicada 2, and rightfully so, because she was erased from the timeline. But I'm sorry about the first episode appearance one. I counted episode 1 of season 5, Nora, as her first appearance, but no, it was episode 3 of season 5, The Death of Vibe. And Legacy was a pretty good episode because of the reverse flash parts, and they just got the cicada parts out of the way.
There, alone.
All of you have made it clear that you don't want anything to do with me.
What is wrong with you? I think we should take some space, Oliver.
What? This is gonna be fun. Arrow.
This was the last appearance of Prometheus. Even though he was in Oliver's head, it still counts as a last appearance. His last physical appearance was Leon Yu, which would be number 2 on the list if it really was. But this episode was really good. It brought Oliver back to his fundamentals, and he put on the hood costume, which is always great.
He'll destroy it.
No power on Earth
I would have helped you become a hero.
can fight destiny.
I love you like a brother, Clark. But it has to end this way.
The season finale of Smallville.
This was the last appearance of Melton Fine, or Brainiac, who in season 5, Melton Fine, who we'd later find out would be Brainiac. They called him Melton Fine in season 5, and he was the main villain of season 5 of Smallville. But Brainiac, who, the same person, was the main villain of season 7, so this was his last appearance. And he later got repurposed into Brainiac 5.
The race car driver, the basket case, the test pilot, Hollywood actress, and Cyborg, a real superhero. LOL. You brothers want the chief. Come and get him.
What exactly is the plan here?
Send a text to Batman.
This episode was the last appearance of Mr. Nobody, who was the main villain of Doom Patrol Season 1. But you could count the last appearance of Joker on the Harley Quinn show. I haven't watched the Harley Quinn show yet, but Mr. Nobody voices Joker on that show. It's canon. So you could count that, but I'm counting this. And this episode was really good and really weird. If you've seen the episode, you know.
Hello, boys and girls.
Hi, Mr. Parker.
Poopins again. Oh, I wonder who that is. I'm Nora Dole. Daddy's home.
This episode was the last appearance of Damien Dark, who was the main villain of Arrow Season 4. And this episode was a great episode in Season 5. Unpopular opinion is the greatest season of Legends. And this episode was great because it humanized Damien Dark and made him a better person than the first time we saw him, and he sacrificed his life, so it brings his whole thing full circle for all the shows.
Yes, that I'm the devil.
I'm guessing this isn't going to end well.
Could you accept who I truly am?
I don't know.
You don't have to change. You're already perfect. This is not who you are.
I'm the devil. This is going to be...
This episode was the first appearance of Father Kingsley, who was the main villain of Lucifer season. In this episode, Eve kills him, and in the finale, his body is possessed by a demon, so you could count the finale to be his last episode appearance, but I don't, because this was actually Father Kingsley. That was just a demon possessing Father Kingsley's body.
We need to take care of Davis Bloom.
By take care of, do you mean murder? Because that seems to be the way you like to take care of things these days. You're not one of us anymore.
This whole time that you were with me was for Clark.
There is nothing on this earth that will stop him from killing you.
How much time do I have?
Tomorrow is the day you die.
Sometimes we cannot outrun our destiny.
I thought you were invincible.
So did I.
Please don't do this.
Lois, where is the orb?
I appreciate your warning, but I know what I have to do now.
Smallville season finale.
This was the last appearance of Davis Bloom, or Doomsday, and this episode was better than the rest of the season. Season 8 of Smallville is the worst, but I like how they incorporated the Justice League into this episode. And I would have rather had Clark die and be reborn in the blur suit in season 9, because black suit, Superman, but he's not actually Superman yet.
How are we supposed to defeat fear itself?
Hey, Walt, we have to show the world that magical creatures are magical.
It's showtime!
This was the last appearance of Neron, who was the main villain of Legends of Tomorrow Season 4, and Hey World is a better episode than you remember. Season 4 is a better season than you remember. You just remember the crappy parts, not the good parts. But, I really like this episode. I like Constantine, for one, but this episode was just solid all around. And the part where they revive Nate.
All life's ends. My entire life prepared me for this fight.
You ready?
I stay ready.
Let's do this.
We're in the fight of our lives here.
We will not fail this world. Not today. Not ever.
This episode was the last appearance of the Anti-Monitor, who was the main villain of Arrow Season 8. And, wow, if someone would have gone back and told someone in 2012, when Arrow first premiered, and said that that character will end up becoming the Spectre and the Anti-Monitor, and he will die killing the Anti-Monitor. Oh my god, I hate this episode because the Anti-Monitor is back, but I also love this episode because of the cameos.
Dark forces put a bounty on Constantine's head.
Papa Midnight.
And his greatest enemy
You two need to leave right now.
will stop at nothing to collect it.
Can any bounty be worth that stain on your soul?
I gave up on my soul a long time ago.
The epic season finale.
This episode was the last appearance of Manny, who was the first villain. He was the villain of Constantine Season 1. And this episode really ended on a cliffhanger, man. We need Constantine Season 2 to get picked up after what? It's 2020? 6 years? Hey, maybe that rumored HBO Constantine.
Lantern, are you okay over there? Lantern, check in!
One of the bombs went off. GL was inside. I'm looking for him.
This episode was the last appearance of the Joker in the DCAU. And he was the main villain of Batman Mask of the Phantasm, Batman the Animated Series Season 1, Batman Beyond Return of the Joker. But this episode was a fairly good Justice League episode. It's one of my favorites. Season 2 out of Justice League is by far better than Season 1.
Oh, Decker. Come here, say hi.
Hi, Mommy.
Just you or she dies. We're looking for Malcolm Graham. No hogging all the fun. Someone's escaped from hell.
Find it.
Who escaped hell?
Lucifer season.
This episode was the last appearance of Malcolm Graham because he died, but he was the main villain of Lucifer season 1. This episode is very good. It's the finale for season 1, which is like the second best season of Lucifer, and this episode was super good.
I'm not coming back.
What the hell is going on?
We're not leaving our team.
Sorry, Willie.
DC's Legends of Tomorrow return.
This episode was the last appearance of Ra's al Ghul, who was the main villain of Arrow season 3. And when I rewatched Legends in March, season 1 is way better than you think it is. It's way better than you think it is. And also, this episode is super good. It's like super good. Left Behind, there's a 2-year time jump where Legends are stuck in the past.
Is Black Lightning the only line of defense?
The Markovians took jail.
You mad, huh? Stay down.
Black Lightning season finale.
This episode currently is the last appearance of Tobias Whale. Yeah. Tobias Whale and Lala, or Tattooed Man, and Gravedigger. And this was the season 3 finale for Black Lightning, and Black Lightning season 3 is a really good season. It's really solid, and its inclusion with the whole Crisis on Infinite Earths and Earth Prime thing really helped it out.
For God's sake, I'm your wife.
You're not my wife. The real Iris is out there somewhere. I won't let her down.
Fine. You want to see who I really am? I'll show you.
The Flash, new episode.
This episode was the last appearance of Bloodwork. As I'm recording this, he's definitely going to come back for an episode of what now is season 7, due to what they're setting up in this episode. But the final fight at the end of this episode with Iris and Barry is really good, and the betrayal that Barry feels.
Much because they're not going to be alive much longer.
Tonight.
Ready? Time!
I'm sorry, God.
The ultimate crossover event is just getting started.
I'm gonna crack you open like a walnut.
Crisis.
This episode is the last appearance of both Overgirl and Black Arrow, who were the main villains of Freedom Fighters of the Ray Season 1 and Freedom Fighters of the Ray Season 2. Overgirl was Season 2 and Black Arrow was Season 1. But this episode is really solid, Part 4, and it has some of the best action out of the whole crossover. Just not a big fan of the wedding at the end.
Hello? Anyone here? Hello?
This episode takes place 30,000 years from the last episode, but this episode was the last appearance of Vandal Savage, who was the main villain of Justice League Season 1, and this episode was really solid, and I like how they redeemed Savage. It was very good.
The pain I inflict, it's all on you.
Dorothy needs help. She can't hold back the candle maker.
have no idea what we're up against.
Who are you?
Whenever you're ready.
So, you want crazy? Here's crazy.
This episode, as of right now, is the last appearance of Candlemaker. Probably, his actual last appearance will be like season 3, episode 1, because they didn't get to film the final episode of season 2, so it's gonna be the first episode of season 1. But this episode is really good. With the carnival and them all getting waxed at the end, which is also good, but mainly the whole Jane subplot in this episode.
I came to Smallville in a meteor shower. Now it's happening again, and it's all because of me.
I am the villain of the story.
Who are you trying to protect? Mr. Clark?
He's working to deliver the stones that he knows.
I love you.
I don't have the stone.
Last time we had a meteor shower, it was full of kryptonite.
This episode was the last appearance of Jason Teague, who was the main villain of Smallville Season 4, and he was played by Jensen Ackles, and this is a job that got him Supernatural. But this episode is very good. It deals with like another meteor shower coming to Earth, and Lionel at the end gets the visions of Krypton and gets all the Krypton's knowledge. This episode was the last appearance of the Scarecrow, who was the main villain for the new Batman Adventures Season 1, or you could count it as Batman the Animated Series Season 4. But this episode was very, very good. How it was all Scarecrow's fear toxin and Barbara, and how you see the Bat family and everybody else would react to.
I need a husband.
She won't make it.
We need to do something.
Mum's powers are returning, and it won't be long before we can't contain them.
Get me. Peace.
You're gonna have to kill me.
The Lucifer season finale.
This episode was the last appearance of the Goddess, not Charlotte Richards, the Goddess, who was the main villain of Lucifer Season 2. I found this episode to be really good. In particular, Lucifer Season 2 is my favorite season of Lucifer. It is the best, in my opinion, and Mum is the Goddess is the greatest villain the show has had, maybe.
If I do this, I'm going back to some crazy time. Savitar, Philip, Zoom.
And who is this?
I knew we shouldn't have done this.
Things just got a lot more complicated.
This episode was the 100th episode of The Flash, and it brought back Savitar in archive footage, but this is the last appearance of Savitar, and Zoom. They actually got Teddy Sears to come back and film, but Zoom Season 2 villain, Savitar Season 3 villain. I really like this episode more than most people.
It's my world. It's kill or be killed. Kal-El would never embrace his dark side, but you can be saved.
Kneel before Zod. Only 3 episodes left until.
This episode was the last appearance of Zod in Smallville, but this was the combination of Zod, who got sent to the Phantom Zone at the end of Season 9, and Zod from the future, who had already fought Superman at that point. And this episode was really cool because Clark didn't have his powers, and he had to fight Oliver or Green Arrow in the Phantom Zone. I know that I said 30 episodes ago, or like 30 whatever ago, that The Siege of Sorrow Part 2 was the last one. But no, I'm mistaken. This is the last one, because if you look in the background, Starro appears in this background. Now, this also was the last appearance from the Joker, who was the main villain of Season 3, and Gentleman Ghost, who's right there, and he was the main villain of Season 1 of Batman the Brave and Bold. And this episode was really, really good.
I will kill your daughter and your husband.
Let's go.
This episode is the last appearance of Icicle so far. He probably will come back. He might kill him, but he's ice. He can reform. He can melt. But this episode was really good. Stargirl Season 1 is in my top 10 seasons, and this episode is amazing, honestly. How they did everything, and it's so smart that they broke it into 2 parts, which most finales don't do.
Shocking Lucifer twist.
How do we take him down? You don't have to do this.
I do. Not before I kill Lucifer.
Lucifer.
This episode was the last appearance of Kane, who was played by Tom Welling, Clark Kent. Kane, who was the main villain of Lucifer Season 3. This episode was amazing. Particularly the part, the part with the angel wings and him getting shot by all of Kane's henchmen. And oh my gosh, that scene was just amazing. And if you go into the behind the scenes and how they did that CGI, it's pretty cool.
All started.
Arrow has been transformative in every way that you can imagine it would be.
And watch how it all ends.
Follow his mission. It's far from over.
Arrow.
This was the last appearance of Emiko, or Red Arrow, who was the main villain of Arrow Season 7. And you could say it's the last appearance of Deathstroke because of the archive footage in the beginning. But I don't think it is. This episode was very good. It was a very good finale. Some people don't agree with that. I think the majority of people like it. I love this episode. I think it's great.
We were in Smallville the day of the meteor shower. My life changed forever that day.
You never looked at me the same again.
I was raised in your shadow. Now you're gonna die in mine.
I am the villain of the story.
This episode was the last appearance of Lionel Luthor from Earth 167. But this episode was great, mostly for shock value. Just Lionel's death, who had kind of been redeemed up to this point, and his death only happens like 2:30 into the episode, and then the opening credits play.
What are you trying to tell me, Dad? That I'm from another planet?
So what are you, man or Superman?
We have a destiny together.
We're on different sides.
You're a superhero.
We're here to be a force for good, not for evil.
Every world needs its heroes.
Time to become the Luthor you were destined to be.
I believe in you.
I can be their hero.
This was the last appearance of Lex Luthor, who technically died in Season 8. But this was a clone of his body. It was still Lex Luthor. But it was also the last appearance of Darkseid, who was the main villain of Smallville Season 10. Oh, Lex Luthor was also the main villain of Smallville Season 7. But this episode was great, and I'm a huge Superman fan because of this series and the comics. So this was just, oh my gosh. Hey guys, that's it. I hope you guys aren't that mad at me. I would really like it if you can go in the description and follow me and Miles on everything. And if you made it this far in the video, because I bet this far in the video is really far in the video. Comment how many times I said far in the video. And if you don't do that, just comment to another shore. Yeah, I don't know. It'll confuse people. It's a JLU episode I'm watching right now. So, see you next week.